and welcome to the 24th episode of the 10th Divine podcast. This is a show about Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm your host, Raven. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Shanty. How are you doing this week, Shanty?
Oh, it's been a week, and I'm just going to leave it there. How about you? How are you doing?
I mean, it's also been a week, but just for ordinary work-based reasons, not for personally horrible reasons. But work continues to be a complete ass. I actually took Friday as a kind of mental health day because there'd been it's been a lot this week. I've had a lot of there's been a lot of emotions to deal with in the workplace, which is it's not how the workplace should be.
That's not what you want, no.
No. So I'm pretty tired, but hey, we got here. Here's a weekend, a whole weekend, all weekend. Next week is likely to be pretty horrific as well, but I'm hoping that next week might be at the end of this particularly horrific phase. We'll see.
Time will tell, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, we are here. We are recording a show, and we are not on our own. Welcome for today's guest, ToastedP3anut. How you doing, Peanut?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Bright and breezy where you are.
Yes, very bright. Nice 8 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah, sorry about that.
Coffee is here. Oh, don't be sorry.
Coffee is what's called for at 8 o'clock in the morning for sure. So let's just have a quick chat about what's been going on in game. Shanty, have you had any game time in the last couple of weeks?
Not nearly as much as I would like. Related to it having been a week, I haven't been doing a whole lot in ESO. Gotten on a couple days, done some writs, but outside of that, I've kind of receded to WoW, which is my comfort game. Fair
enough. And also, there's a nice shiny new patch just landed over there, so there's lots of good stuff to do.
Yeah, I haven't done any of the new patch yet, but
okay, all right.
I've got so many side projects that I'm working on that I can control. That's kind of what I needed. I can mindlessly go after this thing for 2 hours. It's something I can just turn my brain off and pretty much autopilot.
Fair enough.
Have you been getting any game time in? You done anything with White Strakes?
No. So I could have gone and done some White Strakes actually with the Loreseekers on Thursday because the EU group, instead of doing dungeons on Thursday night, did some White Strakes, but I wasn't in the right headspace for PvP, even with a big group of people on Thursday night, so I didn't. I have played the prologue quest, though, for the next chapter, so I realised I hadn't knocked out that prologue to Necrom, so I did go and do a little meeting with Hermaeus Mora, just for a bit of a laugh last weekend. And it was quite good. I thought it was quite a nice little piece of questing, actually. I quite enjoy prologue quests, but I thought it was quite a nice little introduction to what is coming up in a couple of weeks. Other than that, it's just mostly been keeping the writs ticking over. I have been back in WoW. My WoW team is still trying to get down the last boss of the previous patch's raid.
Yeah, I saw that they cheated, didn't they?
Yeah, Razageth fucking cheated on Wednesday night, and we had a wipe. We had a really good pull, and we got her down to about 42%, something like that. Which, considering it's like a 5-phase fight, and we got into the I think we just tipped over into the final phase, and we were about to tip into the final phase, something like that. And then on the following wipe, she bugged out, so none of us could release Spirit. And release Spirit is the thing you need to do in World of Warcraft in order to res. So we were all dead, and none of us had the button to press to say that we could release our Spirit and go and start again. We tried logging out of the game. We tried logging back in again. I actually had to disband the whole raid. Everyone had to leave group. And when you leave group in a raid instance, after a minute, it automatically kicks you out of the raid instance because you have to be in a group. well, for a new raid instance. But yeah, so basically we all had to leave the group. We had to wait until the game was like, you shouldn't be here, you're not in a group, and then kicked us all out to the doorway, and then we had to reform the group again, which was super annoying because I had some specific groupings of players set up for doing some specific mechanics, and all of that completely fell apart. And I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm going to bed. Like, okay, all right, Razageth, you get to live another week. I'm not reforming all of this shit. Like, let's call it a night. So yeah, I thought that was a bit unsporting of her, really. Like, I mean,
Very.
we've not got her down yet anyway. To invoke cheating seems very uncalled for. So yeah, that was exciting. Peanut, what have you been up to recently? Have you any white strikes for you?
So I started yesterday with my white streaks journey. I had to get a ring for my DK. So I streamed yesterday, and I spent a little bit of time farming for that. I had to find a chest in Cold Harbor and then kill some dade rats, and that proved to be challenging. Finding chest in Cold Harbor is never fun.
No.
But I've got in there, and so far I'm actually really liking this DK build. I found a build online, threw it together on my Imperial Dragon Knight, and that's going to basically be probably the rest of the afternoon. A little bit of housework I got to do, but I will get in and play it a bit more.
Nice. Well, let us dive into our interview questions. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Peanut? Why don't you tell us how you discovered the Elder Scrolls in general and ESO in particular?
Yeah, my first introduction to the Elder Scrolls franchise was not like many people, where it's usually like Oblivion or Morrowind. My very first Elder Scrolls game was actually Skyrim. So I had an Xbox and I purchased Skyrim when it launched. Jumped in there and I loved it. I was like, this is so cool. One of my favorite games to play is Fable. So I was looking for a game very similar to Fable, and tried out Elder Scrolls, and the rest is basically history with that. I've only actually beaten Skyrim once, because that's the fun part about Skyrim, is you get distracted. So if you have any form of ADD or ADHD, you're never going to really complete a game like that more than one time. So
I mean, it's questionable about whether it is possible to complete it. It's like,
100%.
I mean, it depends whether you mean finish the main quest line or finish everything that is possible in the game. Because if it's the latter, then you're going to be there for a long time.
Exactly. Yeah, I finished it, got all the way up to the top of the throat of the world, and did all that. But I only ever did it one time, and then everything else is like, oh, I'm going to grab a bow and I'm going to go kill people and snipe people, and the typical thing, right? And be like, oh, I'm going to be a mage, and then 5 levels in, you have a bow and you're sniping people again. You're like, this is easy.
Yeah.
But with ESO, that started when the beta came out. So the announcement for the Elder Scrolls Online, I signed up for the beta right away. I was like, I want to try this game. This looks super cool. And the rest has basically been history from there. I am still playing ESO to this day, having started in beta back in the day. So I've done the vet levels. I've done the 1 Tamriel transition. I've done the CP 1.0 and 2.0 now. So I've been through quite a bit of it. Didn't understand most of it until the last couple years, but
I mean, overrated.
Understanding endgame, that's
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Had you got any previous MMO experience, or is this your first MMO?
The Elder Scrolls Online is my first dedicated MMO. I had a friend of mine who introduced me to Guild Wars, and I played it a little bit, but I never really got into it. I didn't understand an MMO environment, so I was always trying to play the games like an RPG, and it never really works that well. So ESO is my first MMO, and probably my only MMO, honestly. I don't really think I'm going to dedicate a lot more time into a different game. I just enjoy this game too much.
Fair enough. We're a bit strange about MMOs on this podcast. So.
I have tried WoW. I have tried it. I played it for like maybe about a week, and I did not know what the heck I was doing. I was so confused. So
I
that
think
was
at this point I've dabbled in at least 10 MMOs.
So trying to find the one that just entertains you enough, right?
Yeah. Well, you're still sticking with 3 of them, right, Shanty?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the number 3?
There's Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
The big 3, the top 3.
You see a lot of crossover between ESO and Final Fantasy 14, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people I know play Final Fantasy as well as ESO. There is quite a jump between the two.
There's also quite a lot of people who play WoW and also play Final Fantasy, or play WoW and also play ESO. There aren't that many people like Shanty that try to keep up all 3. Shanty and Tetsemi, one of our regular correspondents on my other show, try to keep all 3 going.
Well, I mean, Tetsemi also does SWOTOR too. So.
Yeah, Tetsemi is a bit strange. He also does SWOTOR. Yeah.
I can't imagine juggling 3 or even 4 MMOs. Like, just the amount of time and dedication that goes into something like that is got to be wild.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, if you're playing for like the main story bits, SWOTOR and Final Fantasy, once you've completed like the first little part of the patch, you can unsub and come back to it when the next story patch comes out. So, those lend themselves to that kind of play. So, are you a single character player, or do you have a bunch of alts?
So I have a primary character that I do the majority of my PvE questing on, but I have 13 tunes that I manage. Most of them I just do writs on them because I just enjoy crafting. It's fun. And then I have some PvP tunes because I do dabble in PvP as well. So I have about 2 or 3 tunes in that listing that are PvP. And then I have an alt ESO account for Steam, which I have one character who I have not touched in probably about a year. And it's level 5, and it's sitting in that new training hall where you get to choose where you want to go. And that's where I've left it. So I think I was scared away on that tune when I discovered I had no champion points and nothing, and I had to do the whole grind all over again. I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But 13 on your main account, that seems like plenty to be going on with.
It is.
How did you get into content creation?
That's a big question. I got an idea when probably 10 years ago. I don't even remember, honestly, to create a Twitch account and just start streaming on Twitch. So I was streaming things like Age of Empires, Civilizations, Skyrim. I think I was even streaming Eve online for a little while there too. If you're familiar with the game,
you mean Spreadsheet Simulator Online?
Basically, Spreadsheet Simulator Online. Yeah. So I was just kind of playing as an asteroid miner, and I was just like, "This is fun," and then I just got bored of it and unsubbed. I was like, "All right, cool, move on to something else." From there, it kind of just graduated into like Fallout and then Elder Scrolls Online, and doing just daily stuff just on the Twitch stream. I don't really have a schedule with my Twitch streams. It's pretty inconsistent, but when I do, I try to put a couple hours in when I can. I just really enjoy hanging out with people in chat and talking to people, and seeing people that have a similar kind of interest to what I do on the stream. So whether it be any of those games, Fallout or ESO or Skyrim, sometimes Fable, sometimes I throw back some emulators and pull up some Game Boy games and we'll stream that. So
nice.
Podcasting is new. That's a new thing for me. Never thought I'd do it. The thought came in the back of my mind at some points, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And no one wants to hear me talk for, an hour. And then, without getting too much into it now, it's been quite fun. The old adage of the podcasting bug bites you and it just kind of sticks with you is very true. you kind of get the hype on wanting to do your next episode. So for podcasting, the Loreseekers ESO is kind of the next, is the only podcasting thing that I do. There might be something else in the future. Who knows? So.
Yeah, you have to watch it with podcasts. You have 1 minute you get one, and then there's like 3 of them, and you're like, oh my god.
1 minute you're
Where do you
guesting
find
on
the
one, and
time?
next thing you know.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, so what is your favorite part of the game? PvP, questing, housing?
So, like I kind of said earlier, crafting is probably something I very much enjoy. I do like PvP, but the problem is, like, I get super angry with PvP, so it's not really the greatest thing for my mental health. Because you just start running around and then you just hear me yelling and screaming and getting frustrated. There's a few moments on Twitch streams that you can see me just getting absolutely just frustrated. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I that terrible? And then Tales of Tribute. I'm just in love with Tales of Tribute. It's in my opinion, it's a nice in between. You do your crafting writs, you get all your stuff done, you log back onto that character. You're like, I don't really feel like PvPing. Let's play some cards for 25 minutes or whatever, and it's a good little time sink. And then I'm content sometimes just to even log off after that and be like, all right, I'm done. That was good for me. I've settled myself with this. So those are kind of my preferred areas of ESO.
I've not played much Tales since the original, since it was launched. Are they developing the new sets and everything, the developments they're making to it? Is it keeping up? Is it still fun?
I think it's still pretty new to say whether or not they're keeping up. They're adding new tribute tokens, which is nice. I've only unlocked 2 of them. I need to go on the grind probably after White Streaks and go and actually do all of the remaining tokens, plus the new one that's going to come out with Necrom.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a lot of potential. I'm curious to see what year 2 is. With a lot of these things, like Antiquities is a big example of that. Year 1 for Antiquities was kind of basic. They were like, cool, yeah, here's some things, go find these things. Year 2, there were new things introduced. I believe Mythics were introduced in year 2 for items that you could find, the style pages. Like, there was a lot of things that dropped in the second year of Antiquities. So I anticipate that this year for Tales of Tribute, we're going to see quite a few big changes and some fun adjustments to the game. So I'm interested.
Cool. So what's your least favorite part of the game?
Battlegrounds. 100% Battlegrounds.
That was a nice succinct answer.
What's up in Battlegrounds? Other people?
So back when I was playing Xbox being my first console and introduction to gaming, I used to play Call of Duty. So the player versus player, like, team aspect of the game, people build these things to just basically come up and they just one-shot you, and they don't let up. They'll camp, they'll spawn, camp the spawns, wait for you to come out, and they just target you. And I'm just like, I am not interested in this. Like, I just want to go, I want to kill you. I don't want you to kill me. So I think that's just the way that the Battleground style matches work are just not something I'm interested in. I like Cyrodiil style PvP. I prefer the objective based games rather than just the Slaughterfest that comes out with a lot of these games. I have a hard time even playing Halo, which is one of my other favorite games online. I usually stay away from it. So that's why. I just salty.
Fair enough. I don't PvP at all, so I can hardly comment.
Oh, you're missing out though.
Nah, it's not my speed. Not my speed. And fortunately, there's plenty of other things to do in the game. So
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing with ESO is that, if one facet of the game isn't something you're interested in, there are so many other directions you can go, even if it is just wandering around the wilds and picking the flowers. Like, there are people that enjoy that, just wandering around, checking things out. So,
yeah, for sure.
So, in addition to hosting the Loreseekers ESO podcast, you're also a co-leader of the Loreseekers Guild. So, what is it like leading a guild like the Loreseekers?
Wow, what's with the loaded questions? My goodness. And you gave me forewarning on these too. It's a lot, but not in a bad way. With Loreseekers, there is a standard that's been set by the previous GMs, the founders, Jibs and Cash. So leading a guild like that, especially for someone who came in halfway through the Loreseekers kind of time. I wasn't an original Loreseekers member. I joined in like 2019 and joined into the community, didn't found the community. It's entertaining and exciting. There's a very large dynamic of people that are part of the community that are there, which is why I'm really happy that I get to do it with somebody else. So that way I don't have to do it all by myself. So Gone Crazy is definitely very much an important part of leading. But I find it pretty much an honor to be able to take on that role with Gone Crazy, and keep the community running as much as we can. I love this community. I came from another community that kind of made me really bitter towards discords and communities for ESO. So when I found Loreseekers, I was quite hesitant. And to now be able to say that, I grew, I moved my way through the groups with everybody, and now I'm leading it. I feel like a part of me has grown into the community as a whole. It has its moments. It has its hard times, and it has its fun times. So,
I mean, it's quite an achievement to hold a Discord community that's actually a whole bunch of different communities, like because you're across NA and EU and across the different platforms, and like all things are possible. That's quite an achievement to hold all of that together.
Yeah, it's not even one community realistically. It's 4 communities because you've got your consoles and you've got your mega servers, and then from there it's all the different communities that come from Loreseekers. So you've got other Discord communities that we kind of co-work with. So it's one big ESO family, realistically. So it's not just kind of working in just the Loreseekers, although we are the GMs of Loreseekers. We're the GM of the community of mega servers, where the name Loreseekers is known across the ESO family as well. So that is also another part of it. You're kind of like a representative of the game in a way, because there is a prestige with the name Loreseekers that's known across the Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, big shoes.
big shoes, or big Crocs, whatever you want to call them.
Just going to take a moment to remind you all that this show is part of Bonus Roll Productions. You can find our show and lots of other great MMO-focused podcasts, such as Girls Gone WoW, A Podcast Reborn, and For Azeroth over at bonusroll.gg. So going back to the podcast side of things, what does an episode of the Loreseekers cast typically entail?
So it's basically we try to approach it from just a casual interaction. I really enjoyed Jibs and Cash's method of just having a conversation, so we've stuck with that. So typically an episode will start with just Gone Crazy back soon and myself just chatting back and forth about what we've done in the last little while, whether it was a couple months since we were live or a couple weeks since we were live. we'll just chit chat back and forth for a little bit, talk about some news, what's going on in the game, what's going on in the communities, what's going on in Loreseekers as well, if there is any big changes happening. I have a little bit of an obsession with the Crown Store, so I love to call out the Crown Store. If you know me, I have a Crown Crate obsession. So it's a problem. I deal with it. Just buy more Crown Crates. So we'll talk about the Crown Store, some cool things that are there.
So you actually have one of each type of crate saved, right?
Yes. I do. I have one of every crate from about 2021, late 21. I've basically bought crates and then I don't open the last one and I just kind of keep it in my collection. And then as they refresh themselves, I'll add to the collection and I'll go down and I'll just leave the last one. If I don't know why I do it, honestly. I couldn't tell you why. I just thought, hey, this would be kind of a stupid fun thing to do, so why don't I just do it? I think my hope is that one day there's just going to be a peanut Crown Crate, and it's going to be the perfect example of Crown Crate addiction right there, because you held on to one crate and they're like, you know what, let's just give this guy a crate, just call it the peanut crate.
Yeah.
Just a one-off, like, do it. So I don't know, maybe for community events or charity events, I may consider doing some, like, if for extra life donation, I might consider opening one of my singular crates. So they have to be very special donations because they're valuable crates, right? So yeah, there is that potential. And then from there, we go into like a lore or a lore story. We're kind of dabbling on what we find works right now. So whether it be actually talking about lore, which our first couple episodes had, or doing a lore-based story. One of my favorites being the New Life Festival story, which was fantastic. Gone Crazy did a fantastic job writing that story, and it tells kind of like a tale of adventure, but also the background history of the event. So whether it will continue to be a lore story or whether it will be just lore like the original show, we're still kind of figuring that out. But there will always be some form of lore in our episodes every time.
So, as you referenced, you and Gone Crazy are not the first set of hosts. So, what inspired you to try to revive the show?
A moment of crazy non-clarity on my part, where I suddenly decided that, hey, it would be a great idea to do this. Yeah, so Jibs and Cash were the original founders of the Loreseekers podcast. And they ran that for quite a few years and then have graduated and moved on to bigger and better things. So I think what started it was when just before Bacon, I call Gone Crazy Bacon. So if you hear me call her Bacon, that's the nickname. There's a story behind it. If you want to know the story, just you can ask. But Bacon and myself, just before we took on the role of the GMs, the co-GM role of Loreseekers, I noticed that the guild at the time was kind of sitting in a bit of a lull. There wasn't like a whole lot happening. It kind of felt like we were just kind of riding the wave. So I got an idea to just maybe consider revitalizing the podcast, get the Loreseeker name back out there, see if we can kind of drive that hype again and make the community kind of grow and begin to move forward again. So I reached out to Jibs and Cash and I was like, hey, I've got a crazy idea. How would you feel if I took on the role of the host of the Loreseekers? And they were ecstatic. They were like, absolutely 100%. There wasn't even like a second guess. They're like, yeah, absolutely, go for it. They handed over a bunch of stuff. We did some transition of the Twitter page, for example. We took over the Twitter page and kind of started working through that. And then it kind of died off for a little while, kind of figuring out how I wanted to do it, what I wanted to do. And then one day I approached Bacon and I was just like, hey, So I am absolutely garbage at lore. I'm not the greatest at knowing lore. I don't retain it very well. But Gone Crazy is very good with lore. It's like, how would you like to be the co-host of the podcasts? The first thing she does is reach out to Jibs and Cash. And she's like, so this guy, Peanut, wants to start your podcast. Do you guys know about this? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So she told me this, and I looked at her because we were in a call at the time, and I'm like, you didn't trust me? She's like, well, I just wanted to make sure. So she agreed, and we kind of dabbled on it, set up, started creating some promo videos, and started rolling. We went into this with no idea what the heck we were doing. Bacon does a podcast for ESO as well. So she has a little bit of experience, a lot more than me, with podcasting. And then I have a lot of Twitch experience, somewhat. And that's where we're at. It was kind of just a spur of the moment decision. And then once it happened, we're like, well, can't back out now. Let's go.
Yeah,
So,
you're stuck then.
pretty much, yeah.
You kind of preempted my next question. So instead, why do you call her Bacon? Come on, you have to tell us now.
So in Discord, her name is Gone Crazy Back Soon. So when you read it quickly and you're not paying attention, it looks like the back soon is spelled BACKSN. So when you look at it, it looks like it says Gone Crazy Bacon. So this actually started with one of our other Loreseeker officers who noted that, and then it just kind of stuck. So the name Bacon just kind of stuck with it, and for a few years now, she's just been called Bacon because everyone read it at the very beginning, read it as Gone Crazy Bacon. So not a very intense story, but it's kind of one of those play on visual words, and you're like, oh, okay. And then we just stuck with Bacon. So now there's lots of Bacon memes that fly through the Discord. And I just call her Bacon now. She's even called Bacon in my phone. So I don't even, her name on my phone is Bacon, and it's a picture of a piece of bacon. So it's perfect.
Fantastic.
I love that.
The best nicknames are the ones that write themselves for some reason. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what is it like as a listener to Jibs and Cash would say, stepping into those giant crocs?
What is it like as a listener? It's so just to make sure I understand your question right. You're just as a listener stepping into the position of
No. I was saying as a listener would say, because the listeners would be the ones making the jokes about the giant crocs. So what's it like stepping into those crocs?
I'm not sorry. I'm not sure I understand what the question you're asking.
Well, what's it like stepping into those shoes, following up from Jibs and Cash?
Oh, okay. It's. I think I mentioned it earlier too. Like it's definitely a big step. They're big shoes to fill. There's quite a bit of history with the podcast and with Jibs and Cash as GMs and hosts. So there's a level of making sure that we stick to the original values that they set for the community and for the podcast, which is family friendly, keeping it positive. And that was one of the reasons why I loved coming into Loreseekers was the level of positivity. There wasn't a lot of toxic conversation. It was very much like, no, if you're not encouraging people, this isn't the place for you. And Bacon and I have really held on to that. And that's a big thing that we keep rolling forward as we continue our podcast and as we continue being the GMs and leads of Loreseekers. But they've also really encouraged us along the way as well. They haven't just like tossed everything in our hands and said, okay, have fun. They've been very supportive and encouraging along the journey and helped us out in so many ways. And even just with advice, like dealing with anything that comes up in the community, we've definitely looked to them for some input and advice. They're role models for us. So stepping into those shoes is it's an honor, but it's also like we really want to carry forward the same standard and the same kind of rules and guidelines that they held onto, which is with our COC. We've left it the same because we're like, no, we don't want to make any changes to that. This is the community that we're a part of, and we want to keep this community this way. So I hope that kind of answered your question. Forgive me if it didn't.
No, that was a perfectly good answer to the question, and it definitely reflects my experience of the Loreseekers over on the EU, on PC EU. I very much enjoy spending Thursday evenings doing dungeons and like once a month kind of casual trials. It's all good stuff. Good to hang out with lots of really positive people.
Yeah, definitely.
You got any exciting plans coming up, either for the guild or for the podcast?
Well, for the podcast, like I said, we're still kind of figuring out what we're doing. So that's still kind of up in the air. For the community, we're looking at doing some cross-platform events in the guild, which we love. I mean, our Dragon Hunt Challenge event is a staple. It's a lot of fun, where we pit all the different servers and consoles against each other and just go kill as many dragons, because it's something you can do without the worry of like, well, they've got add-ons or they've got this. It's like, just go kill dragons. Like it's not a difficult thing. Point forward, cast, shoot arrow that way, kill the thing. However many you do in an hour. So we're going to try to figure out ways to implement more of those kind of cross-platform things. And then we're open to all sorts of different fun events. So we're still trying to figure out what we want to do. White Strikes is going to be the big one right now. Lots of PvP to do. So
cool.
All right, and wrapping up, we just have a few more that don't really need to have serious answers, except the last one here. But if you could take a race or species from Nirn and plop them into our reality, which would you choose?
Elfique. I want a talking cat.
Good choice.
But I don't want like a cat person. I want like a cat that talks. A Zabi or Fazez or the one that was on the counter over there. Like, just imagine if it sat back there and she said, "Can I hold any of your wares?"
That's definitely not what that cat would have said. I promise. I think this cat swears a lot, which is entirely my fault because I swear a lot. Conversely, if you were transplanted into Tamriel, what was the first thing you would do?
I'd head over to Riverwood. I loved Riverwood in Skyrim. It's one of my favorite locations. And I would probably break into a few houses and steal a few gold coin, because if I got transplanted into Tamriel, I probably wouldn't have any coins. So I'm going to need some. So I'll pick a lock, because all I have to do is just push down on a few toggles.
Yeah.
Not super hard. I would go and I'd build a homestead farm.
Nice. All right, and this is the question that we need the serious answer for.
Okay.
Why is AD the best faction?
It's not. I have a confession. The only reason why I am an AD faction member is because I was told that AD is the best faction. So I just kind of jumped on the hype train and was just like, all right, AD is the best faction. If I had to choose a faction that I would prefer to align with, it would probably be DC, just because you've got your Nords. I like my Nords.
That's fair. That's fair,
Yeah.
But I would have taken simply Razum Dar. That alone.
Hey, I mean, Roz is great, but I've also seen him in many different places too. I mean, he's been all over the place, so there's no reason why he couldn't come visit us over in DC or EP. But
hey, you don't. No. You don't get to keep Raz if you're not AD. that's not allowed. It's not allowed. He's the Queen's cat.
He is the Queen's cat, the eye of the Queen, and best friend. He's also hilarious.
Yeah.
I encourage anybody, if you just go just read through and listen to his dialogue. He just says some of the most subtle things in his sentences that you're just like, wait, did he just say that?
Yeah. Yeah. He is a great NPC. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I know it's early in the morning where you are. Can you let our lovely listeners know where they can find you and all of your things?
Absolutely. So you can find myself on Twitter at ToastedPeanut. The E is a 3 in peanut. You can also find me on Twitch, same handle at ToastedPeanut, spelled the same way. You can find the podcast at Loreseekers ESO on Twitter and at Loreseekers ESO on Twitch as well.
Cool.
And in most podcatchers, yes.
And in most podcatchers, yeah, I believe the big 3, Apple, Google, and Spotify are the big 3 over there.
Yeah.
Spotify, exactly.
We hate Spotify. No, we don't. We like Spotify. It's fine.
I'm an Apple user through and through, so everyone is using Spotify. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, use Spotify. I use Apple, so Apple Podcasts.
I mean, once it's in Apple and Google and Spotify, it goes everywhere else, I think, just automatically. So that's
fair.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into the show, everyone. If you've enjoyed it, please let other people know and give us a review wherever you're listening to us. Rating and reviewing the show will help other people find it. You can also give us a review over at the Bonus Roll directory. Go to bonusroll.gg/directory to find it. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Twitter at 10th Divine Pod, or you can email us at 10thdivinepodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to find us at other places, you can find me, Raven, over at Girls Gone WoW. If you're a World of Warcraft fan, or if tabletop RPGs are more your thing, check out As the Dice Roll, where I'm part of the crew of the Cautious Optimism. You can also find me as Silky Raven on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram, or over at the GGW Discord at girlsgonewild.net/Discord. There's a channel over there for ESO chatter and lots of other general gaming chat.
And you can find me, Shanty, on Twitter at ShantyManGaming. If blogs are your thing, you can check out my Road to Endgame series on the Bonus Roll website. You can also find me on the Girls Gone WoW Discord, joining in the ESO chatter and gaming chat, and a whole variety of other gaming Discords. I just recently hit the limit. Feel free to say hello if you happen to meet.
Stop! There's a limit.
Without paying for the Nitro or whatever, the limit is 100 servers.
Oh, I obviously had no idea that there was a limit to the number of Discords that you could be part of. But of all the people to hit it, I'm not terribly surprised it was you.
But feel free to say hello if you happen to see me online.
We will be back in a fortnight with another lovely chat about ESO. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.